As a DSLR photographer, you will love the color controls available in the Color Workspace in Adobe Premiere Pro. To get there, switch your workspace layout from the Editing Workspace to the Color Workspace. You do this by clicking on the word Color at the top of the interface next to the word Editing. The Lumetri Color panel will appear on the right side of the interface, and on the left, you'll see the Lumetri Scopes tab. This tab allows you to see luminance, saturation, and color values of your image graphically, much like you would use the histogram in Lightroom and Photoshop. As a matter of fact, there is a histogram view option located under the wrench icon at the bottom of the tab. The Lumetri Color panel on the right should look a bit familiar to photographers acquainted with the Adobe Camera Raw filter in Photoshop or the Develop module in Lightroom. Here is a clip shot on a Sony a7S using S-Log. S-Log is the video equivalent of shooting Camera Raw for still images. It allows you to capture a greater tonal range in both the highlights and shadows. But straight out of the camera, it looks pretty flat and dull. That's where the Lumetri Color filter comes in. Applying the filter couldn't be easier. To better see how it works, let's open the Effect Controls panel next to the Lumetri Scopes. As soon as you adjust any of the sliders in the Lumetri Control panel, the Lumetri Color filter is added to the clip. All the same controls in the Effects Controls panel are available in the Lumetri Color panel on the right, so let's switch back to the Scopes tab so we can see the histogram. The sliders in the Lumetri Control panel are pretty similar to Photoshop's Adobe Camera Raw filter and Lightroom's Develop module. Now, I realize that everyone's approach to color adjusting is a little different, but the idea here is to get an appreciation of the power and control of this filter. The first thing I'll do is a quick white balance. I think the sand is a bit blue and it should be more neutral, so I'll use the eyedropper to adjust the temperature and tint. Now I'll open up the shot a bit with the exposure slider and then increase the contrast. I'll pull down my blacks and raise my whites to expand the dynamic range. Moving on to the Creative panel, there's a variety of looks I could apply to my video. I can easily scroll through by clicking on the arrow next to the image. If I like one, I just click on the image, or go to the drop-down menu to go directly to one of the looks I know I might want. I could accept the preset as is, or refine it further after I apply it. In this case, I just want to refine my image by hand. I usually like to add some sharpening to my images, and add some saturation. I'll step into the Curves panel, and under RGB Curves create a small S-curve to make my shadows richer and tweak the highlights. The Hue Saturation Curve wheel allows me to really enhance the oranges and reds in the sunset. I'll click on the red circle to create 3 adjustment points. Move them over a bit into the oranges and increase my saturation. I can click on the circular line if I want to add more points. If I need to reset the filter, I can double-click on any of the control points. I like what I did though, so I'll undo that reset. The Color Wheels panel lets me focus the luminance and tint adjustments on just the shadows, midtones, and highlights. I'm going to add a hint of reddish-orange to just the highlights. The HSL secondary panel allows me to perform selective adjustments based on hue, saturation, and luminance. I'll use the eyedropper to select just the orange part of the sunset. You will notice that the image reverts to its unmodified appearance so you can more accurately select the area you want to change. I can broaden the range selected with the Add Color eyedropper, and even use the Remove Color dropper to further refine the selected area. The checkbox next to the words Color Gray is the Show Mask switch, which allows me to see exactly what range of colors I'll be affecting. I could also view my mask as color black or white black. These views allow me to see the effect of the denoise and blur sliders on my mask. I use these sliders to finesse the mask to create a more natural transition between the areas I am and am not affecting. Now, when I adjust the sliders under the correction triangle, only that sunset area is affected. I think there's too much color in the sunset compared to the beach. Because it's now isolated, I could desaturate just the sunset, but that's not the look I want. Let's reset that slider. To reset a slider, I just double-click on the slider handle and it will reset back to the parameter's default value. I'm going to turn the mask back on for a moment. To the right of the Show Mask button is the Invert Mask button. Now I am affecting everything that's not the sunset. Let's tint the beach and water towards the oranges to better match the colors of the sunset. Warm the temperature up a bit, add a little sharpening, and maybe push the saturation of everything other than the sunset up just a touch. Nice. I can toggle just the HSL secondary panel off by clicking this checkbox and see exactly how the modifications affect the shot. Let's add a little bit of a vignette to finish things up. Now let's play the clip. As a final step, I usually open up the Effects Control tab and click on this little FX button to toggle the entire effect off, and then back on to see my before and after. You can see there is a small stopwatch next to each of the parameters in the Lumetri color filter, which means if I want, I can actually animate my color adjustments over time. So that's how you make nuanced color adjustments to your videos in Premiere Pro.